position face up. The second attitude was the side lying position. The third attitude was the prone position face down. The fourth attitude was the second supine or stomach focus, where we did a little attention to the belly. The fifth attitude was the seated position. Okay, those are the 5 classic positions that are practiced, generally speaking, everywhere in Thailand. It doesn't matter, north, south, east, west, Burmese Hill Tribe, southern, northern, royal, eclectic, doesn't matter. Most everybody does at least 4 of those. Everyone does at least 4, and all of them do a little bit of attention to all 5. Sit up straight, please. Just if you can, just for a minute. All right. Some styles combine a couple of those different attitudes into one part of their vinyasa. In other words, they don't break it out as a separate thing. Like they might do a little bit of abdominal work like 3 different times through the session. In other words, they don't just have a place where it's like abdominal work, right? But they all have these emphases, right? And then the other 2 things that we really looked at was puja at the beginning and ending of every session, and we looked at warm-up as a concept at the beginning and ending of every session. So basically, a Thai session is puja warm-up, stuff in the middle, warm-up puja finish. That's the mechanics. Like if you were just to diagram it and say, what components does a Thai session have? Puja warm-up, okay, and you could call that sort of like, that's all preliminary, right? And then you have the stuff that you do, which is generally treating 5 attitudes some way or fashion. Some way or fashion. You're either working lines, you're working points, or you're taking the client through facilitations of yoga postures called asanas. Okay? And then you do warm-up puja finish, and that's the conclusion of the session, right? And then we have many different forms of what we do as far as what is a session. Okay? So technically speaking, in SomaVeda, we don't do a generic session or a general session other than as a demonstration session, as a trial session, okay, or a once in a blue moon because of circumstance kind of session. All right? That actually, SomaVeda treatment is a program that is a minimum of 7 entirely different treatment sessions. It takes 9 to 12 hours to do a SomaVeda Thai session one time. 9 to 12 hours, hands-on. We break that up into a program that takes place over 7 days. And I'll be talking more about that in the future. It's called Therapeutic Day. So when you ask me, you say, Ajahn, do a Thai session for me. I go, great. Let's get the calendar out, because it's going to take a minimum of 7 days, and we need to book all 7 of your sessions. And each of those days we do something different. No 2 of those days are the same. Okay? And then when we've done all of those 7 sessions, from the first one to the 7th one, we have done one therapeutic day program in SomaVeda. Okay? And that's it's a huge difference between what we do with a traditional basis and the one-size-fits-all. I have like my one generic Thai session that I do over and over and over and over and over again. Same with everybody, same with everybody, same with everybody, with maybe a little variation. It sort of naturally occurs, okay? It's very, very different. There's nothing wrong, per se, with a general session. This idea of the level 1, for example, is a general session. It's just housekeeping. It's not very specific. It's not really meant to cure or fix anything at all, okay? It's meant to bring a little bit of attention to all the major yoga postures, at least the fundamental ones: forward bend, backward bend, and twisting pose. Savasana, both face up and face down corpse pose, with one inversion, okay? And so that's just meant to be a general balancing session, okay? But then starting tomorrow, when we go into the royal method, which we call Ayurvedic Thai Yoga, we're actually start learning the components of the therapeutic day. Now you already know some of the fundamentals, so we went over the 5 attitudes, right? face up on your side, face down, face up again with abdominal focus and sitting. Okay? When we start doing the 7-day protocol, not day number 1 is a session like we just did. A general session, cover all those attitudes a little bit, plus assessments, plus interview time, plus, okay? Day number 2 is supine position intensive only. In other words, you think of what we did in the beginning, in the supine position, okay? We're now going to expand that to where it becomes a full hour-and-a-half session just in that position. Day number 3, remember we did the sideline position. Did a few things on this side, a few things on this side, all right? Day number 3 in the Therapeutic Day program, we're going to take that side position and we're going to expand it to an hour, hour-and-a-half session, all by itself, with nothing else, okay? And the next day, we're going to do the same with prone. We're going to have an hour-and-a-half session on the back. And then the next day, we're going to have an hour-and-a-half session on the abdomen with leg stretching, without doing anything else, not doing the supine, not doing the side, not doing the prone, just a full session from beginning to end, focus on the abdomen and leg stretching. Next day after that, okay, we go to, the last, the 5th day in the middle there is sitting, and we're going to do a half hour, 45 minutes of nothing but sitting position as a complete session, okay? And then the 7th session, we're going to learn the most traditional long flow in the Royal Method, which if you were doing it slow and righteous, would take you 2 to 3 hours to do just that one form, one time. If you're doing it righteous, 2 to 3 hours. And I've actually done that session in 4 hours. Okay, just one session, 4 hours, hands-on. Incredibly powerful. That is the traditional Thai yoga form. You see, the idea of doing short sessions is new. There was no such thing before 1990. Didn't exist. If you were in Thailand before 1990, 1989, 1987, 1985, 1975, and you went for a traditional Thai yoga session, the minimum time that person had you on the mat was 3 hours. That was the minimum time. Okay? Again, I take some responsibility for it, because when we started doing this practice here, and every session was 3 hours long, but people were used to going to the spa and getting like a 45-minute session or 50 minutes. People say 1 hour massage. There's no such thing. It takes you 5 minutes to get on the table. It takes you 5 minutes to get off of the table. Really, contact time might only be 45 minutes.